Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. So we've had presidential candidates, okay, being asked the question about the issue of reparations. And it has come up, several different candidates. Now, first of all, the idea of reparations is not new. You know, there are some people who believe that it is new, but actually it's not new. Nope. You've actually had this discussion of reparations ever since slavery ended. You remember Special Field Order 15, which never went through 40 acres and a mule. What also happened was that Congress also failed to actually approve a bill that would extend reparations in the 1800s. And so you've had this discussion taking place for quite some time. Now you have folks, of course, remember Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote that essay in The Atlantic where he talked about the issue of reparations, and that caused a lot of new generation people to say, hey, here's something that we need to get behind. But there have been lots of people who have been working on this. One of the folks I want to bring up right now, he is Ron Daniels. He is a member of the National African American Reparations Commission. Julianne Malveaux is on our panel. She's also a member of this particular commission as well. And so I want to start with you, Ron, first, because again, for folks who don't know, first of all, how long have you been involved in this discussion of reparations?
I've been involved in the discussion about reparations most of my adult life. I mean, I can't remember when I was not involved with it. That's probably half a century, working with NCOBRA, the National Coalition for Reparations for Blacks in America, and working with Congressman John Conyers forever in terms of trying to get H.R. 40, the Reparations Study Bill, which is now a bill to study reparations proposals, passed. For many years, I was the person who actually convened the Reparations Summit or Reparations Brain Trust for the Congressional Black Caucus for Conyers. 7, 8, 9, 10 years that I did that. So I've been on it for a long time.
So explain to people exactly what that House resolution was, because I mean, I've seen all kind of stuff on social media, and there are a lot of people who are throwing stuff out. So explain exactly what that is.
Well, H.R. 40 initially was simply a bill to study whether or not slavery or compensation for slavery was warranted. And if so, what might that look like? So to establish a commission, a national commission for that purpose. Congressman Conyers first introduced that bill in 1989. And it was introduced as H.R. 40 every year. Of course, H.R. 40 referring to 40 acres and a mule, the proposal that you just mentioned in relationship to the promise of 40 acres and a mule, which was never, ever delivered. However, through the National African American Reparations Commission, on which Dr. Julianne Malveaux sits, we were able to say, wait, there has been plenty of studies, and Roland, you know this, there's such a volume of information and studies coming out now, all of which show a direct linkage between slavery and the enrichment of this country, but also the wealth gap, the dispossession, the damages done to Black people in this country. So we were able to persuade Congressman Conyers to change the bill from a study bill to a remedy bill. So now it is a bill to study reparations proposals for African Americans. So it's no longer a question of saying, should we get reparations? It is now about saying, what should that look like? And as far as I'm concerned, when it looks at the presidential candidates, I think it's a very positive development, because what it shows is that the movement over time, including the work of Ta-Nehisi Coates and others, has really been strong enough that, and the movement for Black Lives and of course the work that we've been doing with NARC, has pushed these candidates to now recognize that it is a major issue on the agenda of Black America. So my view is that all of them should be supporting H.R. 40, because in some ways, many of them sort of seem to be not knowledgeable. They don't know. They have different formulations. Well, the best way to handle that really is for them to, in fact, push forward with H.R. 40.
But Julianne, what's interesting is you have folks who say, no, H.R. 40, that's not enough. You need to push even further. When I was on Fox Business, Charles Payne said, well, Roland, how much and who benefits? I said, dude, first of all, you're going way ahead. The reality is here. I was asked about it. I got no problem saying it. I said the reason I said I was not a part of the movement, I said because the question is, I said, where are the votes? Where are the 278 votes in the House, in the Senate to actually get it signed? What you also have, though, is that, and I interviewed them and actually supported these efforts. You look at Tulsa, in Oklahoma. You had Willie Gary. You had Charles Ogletree. You had Johnny Cochran. And so the state of Oklahoma apologized for Tulsa, but would not deal with the issue of reparations. I interviewed some of those original survivors, and they were in their 90s, and it was amazing to meet them. If you talk about Rosewood, you can go through American history, the number of black towns that were literally burned down and black people not compensated. And so what do you say, Julianne, being an economist, to people who say, no, you can't just support the study, you got to absolutely be on record to completely support reparations?
Well, the studies, basically the H.R. 40 as it's constructed now, looks at a series of remedies, actually looks at things that people have proposed. And NARC has proposed a number of things. This is not about giving every black person a $50,000 check. Really, it's about rebuilding. It's about restorative justice. So it's about rebuilding our HBCUs. The UDC president, Ron Mason, said to me the other day, reparations for him would be making all of our HBCUs vital. And
hold on, I want to stop you right there. Because, again, you just said this is not about giving each person a check. When you see this conversation, there are those who see it that way. No, this is about individuals getting money directly from the government and then do whatever they want with it. It's
about communities. It's about rebuilding our community. Once upon a time, Roland, we had over 120 black-owned banks. Now we have 23.
Right.
Some of it had to do with carelessness on our part. Some of it had to do with other stuff. Some of it had to do with regulations and legislation that pushed our bankers out. How do you go from 100-some banks to 23? That's restoring our banking ability, restoring our educational ability, even restoring our health. If you look at the ways that enslavement has affected our health, I mean, we have a whole 10-point program that really talks about the various ways that restoration can take place. And it's not only about we've worked at NARC with reparations groups all over the world. So we're looking at CARICOM and what's happened in the Caribbean and in other places. And Dr. Daniels has just done yeoman's work in pulling together a bunch of thinkers and talkers to get us to really put something together. We've been all over the country, New Orleans, New York, having hearings about this. Here's my biggest disappointment, Roland. The Congressional Black Caucus, 55 people strong.
All right, 55 members.
All of them have not co-signed H.R. 40. Kamala and Cory Booker, if they co-signed it, they did it very recently. So when they're talking about reparations, they need to just shut their mouths.
Well, actually, I don't believe Senator Booker has done an interview on that. I know Senator Kamala Harris was asked that question in an interview with Natasha Alford with the Griot. Ron, I got to ask you what Julianne just said. Do you see it as community building or individual checks? Because, again, that's a distinction that some people actually don't make.
Well, I see it as corporate and collective, though I defend the right. There's some people who still, debate and say it should be individual. The problem with that, frankly, Roland, is it's hard to trace the lineage back to individual African Americans. And that's one of the things that happens within the court system. You run into the question of standing. But even as you said before, even in Tulsa, where they found the people, you still had a situation where the compensation was not forthcoming.
So wait a minute. So
we got to do it collectively.
But Ron,
how to rebuild health systems? How do we build educational systems? How do we get land? For example, the Native Americans have been granted land, even though they need more repair. At least they got reservations and sovereignty over those reservations as a part of rebuilding themselves. We don't have the same thing. So what if we had land that was granted to us so we could then build major institutions to serve black people? So it's a corporate thing, a community thing, not just an individual proposition.
So Ron, but you said so many people can't actually trace their ancestors back. So how do you respond, though, to the folks who say, oh no, that you have to be that you have to be a descendant, when the problem is, how do you even know you are?
Well, you don't. So you take that argument off the table, and you take that argument off the table by saying what we do know is that collectively the issue of slavery impacted Black people, even to the present, to the current state, because of the wealth gap. We do know that there were intergenerational deficits passed on because Black people did not have the same opportunities. For example, if you look at the Homestead Act, which happened at the same time there was a proposal for H.R. 40, the 40 acres and a mule. We didn't get the 40 acres and a mule, but large numbers of relatively poor and working class white people, and we don't disparage that, and we don't hate them for that. They got the Homestead Act. They had opportunities to exploit that. We didn't. You can go right down the line, not only for enslavement, things like the GI Bill, where there was systematic denial of Black people rights to the GI Bill. Black farmers have gotten some compensation for the fact that the agricultural extension agents would systematically bar them from having the same rights as others. So we do know, and in that instance, they could find the particular people. But in general, what we know, Roland, is that as a community, we have suffered. We have been left behind in terms, and the wealth gap data continues to show that even though we have more millionaires, even some quasi-billionaires now than ever before, which means that if that's the case, Black people at the bottom are really, really suffering. And there's a direct lineage and relationship to the intergenerational deficits that come from enslavement and all of the post-emancipation exclusionary policies that Ta-Nehisi Coates so brilliantly documented in his book, The Case for Reparations.
So, Ron, where can people go to what's your website, people to go look at the plan that you put together?
And the website is ibw21.org, ibw21.org. And we have assembled the most extensive online reparations resource center of anywhere in the world. And again, we appreciate this opportunity because it's important for your viewers to also know there is a National African American Reparations Commission. And of course, Dr. Julianne Malveaux sits on it.
All right, then. I really appreciate it, Ron Daniels. Thank you so very much. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Okay, folks, a lot of people here, guys, hold it down. A lot of people here, of course, focused on their health, trying to get healthy in 2019. And that means any number of ways in us doing so. And so some folks about working out, some people about, of course, changing eating habits. One of the ways you can do is the Dherbs Full Body Cleanse. They have 27 different cleanses that you can actually choose from. Some of them very short, some last as long as 20 days. I did the 20-day one earlier this year, lost about 18 pounds of that cleanse. But what it also did was, of course, change your mindset in terms of how you approach food. The focus, of course, was on fresh fruits as well as vegetables, in addition to raw nuts, and drinking lots of water. And so a Dherb cleanse is all about you, of course, feeling stronger and healthier and removing a lot of the toxic foods and the processed foods and fried foods and trying to get us to, again, to eat a lot healthier. Now, if you want to participate on the full body cleanse, all you got to do is go to Dherbs.com, Dherbs.com, and you can also use the promo code Roland. The promo code Roland. You can also, of course, call 1-866-4-DHERBS, 1-866-4-DHERBS. When you go to checkout, again, use the promo code Roland, and you'll get a discount at the checkout. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.